Welcome, everyone. It's a great pleasure to invite His Excellency, the Ambassador of the U.S., to join us. The Ambassador, as you all know, is a key player in fostering the strong relationships between the U.S. and Israel, and also is highly involved in the high-tech sector. Mr. Ambassador, it's a great pleasure to have you with us virtually, and thank you for your efforts and for your time. I know that you're now talking to us from the Google offices in Washington, D.C. And in fact, I think this is probably the best testimony of the subject that we are all going to talk about today, which is collaboration in between countries and the role of high tech. So maybe it makes sense that we are collaborating now on the net. So welcome and thank you.
It's good to be with you. I really wanted to be with you in Tel Aviv, of course, not only to enjoy the opportunity to talk to some of the leaders of one of the most dynamic and productive sectors of the Israeli economy, but especially to visit Google's new Tel Aviv headquarters and to go down the slide. So I promised to come back and do that. As you know, I was asked to come to Washington on short notice to do some work on preparations for President Obama's visit to Israel next month. I'm very excited about that. But certainly I did think it was important to make the effort to come and spend this time talking with you, recognizing the value and the talent, as Google has, of the high-tech energy and creativity innovation that's going on in Israel, create products and solutions, all kinds of problems. I'll just note one that really comes to mind when I know that some of the most innovative products have been actually developed in Israel, and that when you type in weather in Washington D.C. on Google, the result you get comes out of an Israeli software product. I wish I had done that before I came. When I look at the weather outside, I'm not sure I would have come. I might have stayed. I would never sent him to stay and be with you in Tel Aviv. But it's great to be with you. Just one other comment of appreciation for Google's efforts in this area. There's so much focus about what you're doing on the future, on driving forward with the most innovative technologies that are going to help us expand our knowledge and communications ability in the future. But Google's really done something very impressive in Israel to help us appreciate history as well. I can think of two specific examples. One is partnering with the Israel Museum to make the Dead Sea Scrolls online and digitally available for people to read and learn about. And another is the partnership with the Yad Vashem to do the same with the records of the Holocaust and the memories of the victims of that event. So it just goes to show that even the most forward-looking industries can help us reach to the future, but also reach back and understand the past as well.
Thank you, Ambassador, for the kind words. I'd like to kick off and start with a broader question, which is about the relationships between U.S. and Israel, which are special, unique, and very strong. And I'd like to ask you, what do you think is at the heart of these strong relationships?
Well, when we think about the U.S.-Israel relationship, often described, I think, accurately as a special relationship, it really comes down to the elements that I think are well understood. We are two countries with common interests, common strategic interests and security interests in a tough and important part of the world. We are two democracies, and we share the values, have those common values of the peoples of two democracies. And of course, those are both undergirded by this very strong people-to-people relationship. That takes place in many, many forms. Certainly it takes place through the number of tourists, American tourists who travel to Israel, hundreds of thousands every year, to the thousands of Israeli students who study in American universities and Israeli professors on our campuses, and American students who come to Israeli universities. And of course, it's also happening in the business sector, where major American companies like Google, like Microsoft, like Cisco and American Express and others have set up important bases of their operations in Israel. So I start from the proposition that this is a relationship of two democracies with strong values and strong common values and strong common interests, and and the pursuit of freedom and justice and prosperity and peaceful relations with others. But what I think when we usually talk about the relationship, we're talking about the pillars of the security and the values that underscore it. I think there's a third pillar that is really rising alongside those two, and that is the economic relationship. It's a burgeoning economic relationship. Israel is the first free trade partner of the United States, dating to 1985 when we signed the U.S.-Israel Free Trade Agreement. And since then, bilateral trade has increased to $40 billion a year, probably something unimaginable in 1985. And foreign direct investment between Israel and the United States is at $20 billion. All of that translates into deepening the web of ties between our peoples, but it also translates into jobs. It translates into tens of thousands of Israeli jobs supported by American companies like Google's and their subcontractors and their downstream partners, and many thousands of American jobs being supported by Israeli companies that have chosen to invest in the United States and set up their operations there. So to me, all of that is deepening those strong cultural and values ties with a new strand, and that's the economic strand.
So following up on the economic theme, obviously technology is really important for both of our nations, and since we have a lot of representative of the technology field in Israel, I was wondering whether you can talk about the particular collaborations we have.
Initiatives to strengthen our strategic cooperation in a number of fields, and one of the most exciting, and I think where we both have a lot to bring to the table, is in the area of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is an example of a sector that shows a lot of promise for growth. And obviously, it's an important need to respond to the threats of cybercrime and cyber terrorism and the other ways so many of our online information and records and data are potentially made vulnerable, but also an area where we both bring a lot of strengths. And if we pool those strengths, I think it's going to make both of our countries more competitive in this field. We included a session on cybersecurity in the senior bilateral economic dialogue that our governments hold together, the Joint Economic Development Group in Washington last fall, because we see it as an area of high promise. Another area is in the area of energy, and that was also a subject of discussion at the Joint Economic Development Group. We see extraordinary potential for cooperation in our energy sectors, particularly in the areas of clean technologies, green technologies, renewable technologies. That's one of the reasons we set up the Bird Energy Fund. We have the three binational funds of BARD, BSF, and Bird to promote joint ventures between Israeli and American technology companies. We carved out a specific pot of money, our two governments did, to support development of products in the energy field as well. Last month, I spent some time down in the Arava Valley with the Arava Power Company, which has brought some very innovative solar energy technologies to the market in Israel and is now doing it elsewhere as well. That's an American-Israeli company where we've seen the value of our partnerships in those technologies. So this is an area I see great promise in, and it also extends to other kinds of environmental technologies as well. Our administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, Lisa Jackson, visited Israel last year and did a roundtable with a number of Israeli companies who are bringing new technologies to the market to address environmental issues. We see that as an area of great promise as well. So in many ways, we're natural partners, the United States and Israel, to compete together with these emerging technologies. We have this enormous development and marketing capabilities. Of course, the U.S. market itself is very large. But Israel is bringing great innovation in all of these fields to the table. And you put those two together, and it's one of the most powerful combinations I can think of to advance the development and the marketing of new technologies.
Great. So on that notion, I'd like to ask you and maybe share with you a bit of my thoughts on the role of business executives in basically delivering, if you want, the diplomatic messages. Which is really the reason why a lot of us are here. What is the role of people here in representing the country, in representing the brand? Now, I am, I'm a believer that diplomacy in the wider context is not only about the formal, government relationships between two countries. It's actually about the relationships between people. And when you look at the past 10 years with the progress of the internet and technology empowering people, we see even more shift, yeah, if you want, more power shift to the people, which makes this notion of people being representatives of their countries a kind of more interesting notion. Particularly in Israel, the foreign ministry is now looking at rebranding Israel around the theme of startup nation. And when we're talking about this theme of entrepreneurship and innovation, obviously most people who are now sitting in this room really see themselves as the ones that can hold the torch and basically really represent that. What do you think really is the roles of business executives in general, and specifically in the high-tech industry, in kind of building the reputation of Israel, if you want?
Well, it's a great question, Mayor, and you're right that the people in your business and executives in companies like yours and your colleagues, all of those who are in attendance today, really are as much diplomats, international diplomats, and representatives of their countries as we are, those of us who work in the traditional field of diplomacy and in embassies. The image of a country nowadays is not just shaped by its government, by its policies, by its diplomats, but also by the image that is projected by the companies who do business from that country that do business around the world. And I think for Israel, it has produced a significant change and in many ways a real opportunity in the image and the branding of Israel as a startup nation. When you talk to people in the high-tech sectors and in other parts of the business world in the United States and Western Europe and in Asia, maybe even Africa as well, people are instantly drawn to that association of Israel as an incubator of innovation and ideas and technologies. And I think that does great things to highlight the value of the relationship with Israel for those countries. Now, that is at times competing against a difficult environment. Israel, of course, lives in a tough neighborhood, and there are conflicts that go on in the Middle East. And Israel, unfortunately, is cut off from a number of its neighbors and having those types of business relationships as well. But I think one of the lessons we see about the success of the Israeli high-tech industry and the rebranding of Israel is that business is business. And at the end of the day, if Israeli companies work hard and develop innovative technologies and then work hard to market and service those technologies to their customers, businesses are going to respond. And in that sense, the power of economics is very much relevant here, and that people in business will respond to that even when the politics dictate otherwise. There's something else that Israeli companies are doing and can do, certainly American companies I think have been among the leaders in, and that's to present the notion of corporate social responsibility as part of the very business model and the very image that a business represents wherever it does business. I think U.S. companies have been among the leaders in helping develop that reputation by contributing to various educational and health and other philanthropic opportunities in countries around the world where they're representing. I think there's great opportunities for Israeli companies, particularly those who are bringing life-improving technologies into underdeveloped parts of Asia and Africa to the market as well. And in that sense, in all of these sense, I think there are really great opportunities for Israeli companies to work closely with U.S. companies in competing in those emerging markets, whether it's China or India or elsewhere. What it could do and can do is allow smaller Israeli technology firms to piggyback on the already established presence of a larger U.S. company in those markets, and help underscore that in those markets, Israeli technology is partnering with U.S. companies, and together it's that top-of-the-line combination that I was describing before.
So on the notion of the power of economy and power of businesses, I think it's fair to say that both U.S. and Israel rely heavily on innovation. And I know this is another area of collaboration between our countries. How can this idea of innovation and collaboration around this theme be leveraged by Israeli entrepreneurs and businesses?
Well, as I mentioned, the Israeli government and the U.S. government have worked together already to try to spur that innovation and give it some seed money and some energy through the creation of the binational foundation, binational funds, the BIRD, the BARD, the BSF, and now the BIRD Energy Funds. I think that if you look at the history of the development of these technology sector, I think some of it certainly can be drawn from the success of those funds in identifying Israeli technology early in the development process and giving it a joint venture or a partnership with an American business relationship. That really builds, I think, on in some ways the complementary strengths of our two industries, and creates that opportunity for Israeli partnership with U.S. companies. We have, in many cases, already established that presence internationally. And then Israeli technology firms can start building their own presence through the relationship with the U.S. firm. That's a real benefit for Israeli high-tech firms to use their access to their easy access to the American market as a platform to go global, go international from the U.S. And that's a model that's worked for a number of Israeli companies as well, either partnering through a U.S. firm or establishing a subsidiary in the United States as well. Now, a lot of Israeli firms have started to take advantage of programs that individual American states are offering to set up funds and other programs to attract Israeli investment in their localities, especially in the high-tech sector. The state of Massachusetts brought a delegation to Israel late last year specifically to try to attract Israeli water technology startups to the state of Massachusetts. They held a contest, and a company called TA Count won that contest, and it will be able to travel to Massachusetts to meet with the local officials, to showcase its systems, to network with local partners, and be advised by business development specialists, and even those other Israeli water companies, technology companies that participated in the contest but didn't win the contest, have developed relationships and gotten on the radar screen of Massachusetts for future business opportunities. I think that's just one example of many that are ongoing. We have a federal program that's similar. It's called Select USA. This is a program that's designed to facilitate direct foreign business investment in the United States as an engine for job growth and economic development, which will obviously benefit both countries. Select USA serves as kind of a matchmaker between foreign companies and our individual states. 1 month from today, March 19th, we'll have an event in Israel in collaboration with the American State Offices Association and with the Manufacturers Association of Israel, Select USA seminar to invite Israeli companies to come and meet with their federal and state officials to find those opportunities for entering and expanding their presence in those markets, and to speak one-on-one with the various representatives as well. So obviously I encourage any Israeli company who's present there or others who are interested in finding an opportunity to get into one of those U.S. state markets to attend that seminar.
I want to move on to the area of social media and diplomacy. The web is affecting society and is contributing to revolutions and changing the way we live. In Google, we see how technology is influencing public discourse. Recently, the internet and social networks were reported to have played a major part in revolutions that swept the world, basically from Tahrir Square to Rothschild Street to Wall Street. In Israel and in other countries around the world, how have recent technology advances, and particularly regarding to social networks, changed?
It's a great question, especially for someone who was never an ambassador before the era of social media. So I can almost scarcely imagine absolutely essential. Former Secretary of State Clinton, now Secretary of State Kerry, put an enormous emphasis on using those social media platforms to maximize our ability to reach out to local populations. And it really does enable us to engage with people outside of the traditional set of interlocutors we have, or outside of the large the major population centers, namely the capital city and the other large cities. For me, outreach to the Israeli public has been one of the top priorities that I've focused on since arriving in Israel about 19 months ago. And that means myself and many other officers in our embassy going out and connecting with various populations all over the state of Israel, including those who have not traditionally been well known to us in the embassy or have not traditionally known us as well as we would like. I spend as often as I can a full day in places very far from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, places where they're maybe surprised to see the American ambassador at all, much less to come spend a whole day. Arad, Beit Sha'an, Kiryat Gat, Nazareth, Bnei Brak, these are all places I've gone to spend a full day to meet with the local officials, but also the local public in schools, often in very exciting business and technology development centers as well. And in many cases, in those places, they already know us. They already know us from social media as well. But now we're able to expand on that. It really lets us reach everyone, whether they speak Arabic or Hebrew or Russian or English, whether they live in some moshav in the Arva or a village in the Galilee or right in the heart of Tel Aviv. They're all able to communicate with us, and it is a two-way communication. Anybody who's been on my Facebook page, and by the way, everybody there should be on my Facebook page. It's Ambassador Dan Shapiro.
You mean Google Plus page?
I guess that's my next platform. But anyone who's on any of these platforms, thank you, Mayor. Anyone who's on any of those platforms can see that it's a two-way communication, that it's not only us pushing our message and our ideas and programs out to the people, but it's people having a real opportunity to engage directly with us. Those are all very important. And of course, at a policy level, we in the State Department and the U.S. government place a very high value on the basic human right that we perceive in access to the internet. We have an Internet Freedom Initiative that's designed to promote that very notion. We also fund programs to help various political and social organizations. I'm thinking of the Syrian opposition as one that's very relevant in the Middle East, to help them better accomplish their ability to achieve their goals and to communicate with their networks as well.
Great. So I'd like to wrap up maybe with the last question. As a lot of the delegates here that will be heading off next week to Barcelona World Congress, do you have any tips or do you have any tips or words for them as they represent us in Barcelona?
Sure. Well, if I were smarter, I'd arrange my itinerary to meet you in Barcelona on the way back to Tel Aviv, but I don't think I'll be able to. But we have some people there at the session right now who I'd like to make sure I introduce and draw the participants' attention to. Joe White, our Deputy Senior Commercial Officer, and Sigal Mendelovich, our Commercial Specialist. They're in the back, are there from the U.S. Embassy. They, along with our Senior Commercial Officer, Maria Andrews, really are there to provide services to American companies who are trying to do business in Israel, and of course also to Israeli companies who are looking to invest in the United States. So I encourage everybody there to find Joe and Sigal and reach out to them and learn more about the services they offer generally, but also we will have over 230 American companies present at the Barcelona Mobile World Congress. So I think anybody who's interested in meeting with American companies who will be in Barcelona should talk to Joe and Sigal, and they can help make that shidduch. We will have a major U.S. delegation at the Barcelona World Congress. Jack Spilsbury is the Deputy Coordinator for International Communications at the State Department. He'll lead our delegation. And of course, there will be some important policy issues discussed there as well. As you know, at the Telecommunications Conference in Dubai, it wasn't possible to reach an agreement on issues of internet governance and global telecommunications networks. So those conversations will continue in Barcelona. The United States is going to continue to pursue strongly the goal of affordable access to global telecommunications networks around the world. We want to minimize any attempt to regulate the internet. We want it to continue to be an open forum for the free exchange of ideas and knowledge, and so we'll continue our commitment to preventing any expansion of international telecommunications regulations onto the internet-related matters. We will continue our support for maintaining the internet as an open internet with multiple stakeholders. We think that's the right approach to keep the internet as a free forum for the exchange of ideas around the world. So I'm very excited to see that there will be such a large Israeli delegation going to Barcelona. I hope that many of them will find their American partners as well. But as you alluded to earlier, Mayor, it's a great opportunity for Israeli technology experts and executives to put Israel's best foot and best face forward to the world. And I really commend all of you for doing that.
Great. So on that note, I'd like to thank you. I've certainly learned a lot from our conversation here, and I'm sure the audience shares the same feeling. I'm leaving this conversation knowing that the U.S.-Israeli relationships are strong and are here to stay for a long time. And I wanted to thank you for the effort to join us from a distance and wish all of us a successful experience in Barcelona. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. All the best.